What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us for LCS Postseason at-home edition, and with an added countdown now 15 minutes before we get into it all. We're going to dive into some pro votes, take a closer look at each role of this matchup heading into our first quarterfinal bout. I'm joined by Prolly, Mark Z, and Kobe to kick off the postseason. Gentlemen, how you doing? We finally arrived 9 weeks through the regular season, and now we got the top 6 teams doing battle to hoist that trophy.
I'm excited. If Europe is anything to go by, we're going to have a pretty crazy postseason.
I hope Europe is an indicator of perhaps some of the excitement that we have lying ahead of us here today. Kobe, we had some, wild tiebreaker situations to even get to where we are. What is your take on, just overall the 6 teams we ended up with and kind of heading into this postseason?
Yeah, I feel like if you watch the playoff preview that Jet did with a little esports, and he talks about not knowing what can happen, anything can actually take place. That is true right now, because you're talking about Europe. G2 already lost. They're down in the losers bracket. Everything's up in the air, and that makes the games that much more exciting.
Yeah, now probably, Kobe mentions G2 falling down in Europe. I think a lot of people would immediately then turn their attention to our top dog in Cloud9 and ask the same question we've kind of been asking all split long, which is any team here capable of taking them down in a best of 5? Thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, best of 5 is going to be very different. Obviously, we've only seen these teams go best of 1, so we haven't seen how teams adapt or how good their mental resiliency is. But we have seen 2 weeks of online play now, and online is just very different than stage. So we've seen C9 completely crush it on stage, and online they've looked a bit weaker. So I'm kind of curious how a best of 5 online series is going to go, because we've never had to deal with that, or at least not for years.
Without a doubt. So let's get into it a little bit. Before we dive into the quarterfinal match that we have ahead of us today, I do want to quickly go over the All-Pro votes, because those were announced just this week. Of course, we were all a part of that voting process, but we were left just as in the dark as everyone else on what the actual results of the votes were. So here you see them flying up onto your screen. The third team, second team All-Pro, a mix of multiple players across multiple organizations, but then you arrive here at the first and final All-Pro team, and I don't think it will come as much of a surprise to anyone that all 5 Cloud9 members occupy the spots here, with maybe a couple of those races being more contentious than others. But Mark, overall opinions on the way that All-Pro voting shook out?
Looked pretty good to me. I think C9, when you have a 17-1 season, it's really hard to put anyone over them. And I think there were some people, I actually put Someday over Licorice, but I think it was super close. And it's really hard to pick anyone out of there. And then the other 2 All-Pro teams were comprised of people from basically every roster that was in playoffs almost. So it was, top 5 and up were all in represented somewhere, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I think more than ever, it is nice to see a little bit more representation, diversity across team representation in those second and third teams. Understanding we got all Cloud9 at the top, but in the past it has been a little bit more reflective of just 1, 2, 3, and so to see a little bit more of a mix-up, I think, speaks to the competitiveness behind Cloud9 in the league so far. This does, of course, push us into one final conversation around end of split awards, and that is the most important individual accolade you can receive, which would be the Honda MVP award for the Spring Split. So who are the front runners here from the Cloud9 squad, Kobe, that you'd be looking at for most favored MVP?
I think it's got to be Blabber and Niski. And I went back and forth on them. I cast my vote in the end. I stuck with Niski, even though I think the Niski voters are a little bit more at the beginning of the season, and the Blabber voters are a little bit more towards the end.
Probably, where do you fall on that that debate then?
Yeah, I'm actually on the Niski side. I mean, Blabber's been playing pretty amazingly, and I think as a jungler, he just really shows his strengths when it comes to early game aggression. But the way Niski's been playing the game, I think, is kind of really unique to the whole league right now. And I think the impact of it is, I don't know, it's pretty crazy how he can influence the whole map as a mid laner. Usually that's reserved for the jungler, but he actually puts his role in such a favorable spot where he's giving his whole team a lead. I think that's just invaluable.
Wide Eye Mark Z, come at me.
I'm with them. I was Team Niski until about week 7, and then as it kind of progressed with his performance then, and also now in week 9, I ended up giving it to Blabber for my vote. And I think it's hard because like they're saying, Niski does all these incredible things. And in game, eye test wise, both of them are so good. But when I looked relative to their positions, Niski wasn't dominating the stats categories because partially his playstyle is about setting everyone else up. And one of those people is Blabber, who has double the kills of basically any other jungler, and is crushing them in every category. So both look great in game to me. Blabber was head and shoulders above his peers, and that's why I ended up giving it to him.
Always going to be a tough call when you got a 17-1 team in the league. We'll be following up on the MVP conversation as the playoffs continue, but for now, it is time for us to jump into the playoff bracket. First, though, Riv is going to walk us through the changes to our format, because it's a little bit different this time around, and how the 2020 postseason will play out.
With Spring Split 2020 coming to a close, here's a look at our format for the upcoming LCS playoffs. 6 teams will compete in 8 separate rounds. The first seed team will pick between the 4th and 3rd seeds as their opponent for the first match. The 2nd seed will play against whomever was not picked. Losers from the 2 matches will enter the lower bracket and face off against the 5th or 6th seed team. Teams who win advance to the next round. The winner from the upper bracket goes straight to the spring final, and the loser gets one more chance in the championship qualifier, up against the winner of the lower bracket. For the full schedule, visit watch.lolesports.com.
Well, Riv's got you covered there on how the format actually plays out. Let's now take a look at the bracket and how it stands for us here at the end of the spring split. First series of the day here today will be actually that Evil Geniuses versus FlyQuest matchup, with the 1-seeded Cloud9 and 100 Thieves playing tomorrow. Losers of each of those matches will jump down to the losers bracket there to face off against Golden Guardians and TSM, and hopefully do battle and climb their way back out for another opportunity to challenge for the finals, and ultimately the opportunity to hoist that trophy at the end of the split. But gentlemen, a new format. Any takes on how this format might, shift our perception of the postseason, or even the way the teams have come into it?
I'm sure the 17-1 Immortals would have loved to have had a bracket like this when they ended up losing to TSM in spring 2016, I think it was. So it is cool that a really dominant regular season team, if they do flub their opener in playoffs, we get to see, was that a fluke, or are they just not as good in best of 5s?
Trying to say something about Cloud9, Mark?
No, never. I mean, G2 lost and it's online. I mean, who would think anything's possible?
He's getting it in there before the possibility of it happening. One other quick bit of news, a big piece of news though. Riot's tactical shooter Valorant is entering closed beta. You can get access by linking your Riot account to your Twitch account and watching Valorant streams on April 7th. That's April 7th. For more information on how it works and to get any of your accounts set up, check out playvalorant.com. Again, that's playvalorant.com. We here on the Analyst Desk are going to get our opportunity to run through the matchup ahead of us, but before we get into that, I want to check in with our casters, Freak and Zeyzal, to get their thoughts on the Evil Genius Superstar mid laner.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, I am Freak, and right over there is Azale, and we want to talk about EG's mid laner Jiizuke because he has been absolutely phenomenal, a pivotal part of why this team got 2nd seed, and I mean, he's amazing.
He is. He's been absolutely one of the standout players, I think, across the entire league for me this split. He did start out a little bit more slowly, and we do have some of his stats here for you guys to see, but it's the ramp up that impressed me most. This is a guy who came in, who wanted to play aggressive in this league, was able to do that from the word go, but at the beginning of the split, that aggression came with the downside of him getting caught out, of him getting picked off. He was not only carrying games, but he was costing his team games. And I think the most incredible thing that has happened this split with this player is that he was not able to just drop all those inconsistencies and avoid some of those deaths. He was able to do it while keeping that killer instinct, while keeping that really aggressive play style, because oftentimes when you have those aggressive players that are costing you games, they just end up going really defensive, sitting back and losing both the inconsistent deaths but also that kind of really carry potential. And Jiizuke has been able to keep that and has been, I think, one of the best carry players in the entire league.
Yeah, absolutely incredible player. He was my number 2 mid lane vote for the All-Pro voting. And I want to point out a specific stat that wasn't on the graphic. Across this split, he is 16, 4, and 20 in the first 15 minutes of the game. So even with the first half of the split, people were saying, he's a little hit and miss. This guy dies like way less than half a time per game. He's got almost a kill every time and more than an assist every time. First 15, this dude is lane dominant.
He really is. And I think another really impressive part about him is how flexible he has been as far as the champion pool goes. He has really become a threat on a number of different champions. His Ryze has been dominating the league. That's something that people are going to have to look towards in pick ban, but you can't forget about his Zoe. You can't forget about the LeBlanc. Syndra, one of the most popular picks in the meta, which he's great at. He also is willing to play Echo into it. That is one of his signature champs from the LEC, and from his time at Worlds even, he's been known for those types of champions. So we're going to have to see FlyQuest play around him in the pick ban, and I'm going to be really interested to see if they can actually shut him down whatsoever, because I think that Jiizuke needs to have a good series for EG to come out on top, but it's going to be difficult to stop him.
Well, he's gotten the better of PowerOfEvil both times so far this year. We'll see if he has it again in this best of 5, but for now, back to you, Dash.
Thank you very much, Freak. They're talking about Jiizuke being a star for Evil Geniuses and the work he's got cut out for him today up against our third team in the All-Pro voting for the mid lane PowerOfEvil. Let's talk about featured matchup here in the mid lane, because 2 heavy hitters behind Nisqy when it comes to the voting, and one of them's going down today.
Yeah, definitely feels like this is the key matchup. Both teams are the primary carry for their teams, I would say, and they do it in really different ways. Jiizuke seems to be all about the 1-3-1, early aggression, being able to take over games. PoE has been more aggressive this split, but it usually does come down to teamfight champs. Even Rumble, which is aggressive early, ultimately wants to be in those big 5v5s.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing, I don't think.
No.
They're just very different styles. That's the #1 damage per minute, by the way, for PowerOfEvil. So while a lot of people are focused on the recent surgence of EG, and they should be, and crediting Jiizuke, PowerOfEvil put in a lot of work at the beginning of the split to get FlyQuest here.
Now, that may be the featured matchup, but probably it's not the only important matchup on the Rift. I do want to go lane by lane on this one, because we got a lot of interesting ones. Starting in the top lane, where FlyQuest has shown us late in the season that they are willing to make swaps. You see Viper on the card there. That's because he's in today. It can change between games, but late in the split, probably Solo was the one coming in, and in fact, by many standards, outperforming Viper. So what is your thoughts here on this move?
Yeah, and as you can see, all the 3 analysts are kind of pretty much in the middle between this matchup, because, yeah, top lane for both teams has been pretty shaky. Kumo and Viper have both almost been liabilities for their team at times, so now that they're both matching up, it's going to be really curious of who's actually going to be able to come out with an advantage in this lane, or who's going to make the least amount of mistakes and let their team kind of carry.
Let me ask it this way. If Solo were in, would your guys' votes shift, and how so would they?
I had mine initially kind of slightly in favor of FlyQuest, because I thought Solo was starting, and then I kind of put it back in Kumo's favor after seeing it was Viper. So I definitely favor Solo a little bit, but there must be a reason that the team has flip-flopped so many times in these last 2 weeks and are sticking with Viper in a best of 5.
Well, as we know, the junglers can always have a large effect on the game, so let's take a look at that matchup as well. Svenskeren, former MVP in the jungle, and a huge playmaker when he does decide to pop off. Santorin has long been more, the way we talk about a jungler that has consistency and can still, kind of farming-oriented utility jungler. How do you see this matchup playing out, Kobe, today? I see you give a slight edge to Sven.
Yeah, I actually gave him a decent size edge. I really think Svenskeren does so much to set up the win conditions for Evil Geniuses. There's so many games where he's getting these early ganks in for Jiizuke, or Jiizuke is playing a matchup like one of these LeBlanc matchups where you need jungle pressure, 4 kill pressure in the lane, or else you'll get outscaled for later. And Svenskeren has done that. Plus, we know that this guy has been capable of making those big plays on the big stage.
Well, Santorin did pick up third All-Pro team, probably. So where do you stand on the jungle matchup? It looked pretty down the middle.
No, I mean, I agree with Kobe. I think Svenskeren has these pop-off moments and can be a really big playmaker in the early game. He's much more aggressive than Santorin. However, I think Santorin's a very quietly successful jungler in a LCS, where he's the solid jungler that Xmithie was in the past and is really valuable to a lot of teams. And then slowly, I think he's been creeping up into that point where not only is he solid, but he's actually making a lot of good plays. So maybe not as show-offy as Svenskeren, but a very solid player for sure.
Next up, Mark, let's talk about the utility-focused people in the bot lane, the supports, of course. Zeyzal, part of that, C9 shift squad from Kumo, Svenskeren, and Zeyzal to come over to EG, find some success. And IgNar, though, who has long, been touted as a playmaker for FlyQuest and one of the reasons why they're able to snag some victories. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's the first person I think that we have unanimously in favor of FlyQuest, and it's not really a surprise. He's so good at taking over games from the support position, which is something you don't really see that often. Zeyzal has been a lot better than I think he's been given credit for over the course of this season, especially in the back half surge. But IgNar, with his champ pool and stuff, is on another level.
Yeah, I think there's some nuance to this because they're just so different as support players. IgNar, most played, highest win rate, is Rakan, engaged champions. You look for roams from him. You look for him to start fights for the team. And that's exactly what this FlyQuest lineup needs. But on the side of EG, they need more defense for Bang. And he does exactly that. Zeyzal, most played, Tom Kench. Most played, highest win rate is Tom Kench. He gets them through the lane phase to those team fights. Just completely different styles.
Yeah, well, Kobe, we got two different style supports. How do you feel about the 80 carries that are next to them in lane? We've got Bang on one side and WildTurtle on the other.
I gotta go with Bang here. I feel like the defensive play of Zeyzal has really complemented Bang's play style, which is something that he didn't quite get right when he came to North America, had to find a good fit. But now he's been really popping off in the team fights, carrying huge damage numbers, as well as a top KDA only under Sven.
All right, well, rapid fire around the horn here, gentlemen. It's just about game time, so probably who's going to take it today? Our first quarterfinal and best of 5 between FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses.
All right, well, I need a little bit of help with this.
Oh boy,
this prediction. So just let me know what you guys see on your screen for me. What did
I just guess into? Okay, we have a PowerOfEvil.
No, it's the flamethrower Jiizuke thing from the video.
The flamethrower Jiizuke.
And that's 3
greater than PowerOfEvil?
3 Jiizukes to 1 PowerOfEvil. That's more accurately a 3-1 prediction.
Oh.
There it is. A 3-1 prediction for EG, and it's coming from the mid lane is what probably saying. Jiizuke with the pop-off performances to bring it home for the Evil Geniuses. Mark, who you going with?
I also have a 3-1 EG. No clever graphic. Probably has outdone me thoroughly here. So I'm going to make fun of his instead. That dash looked like a minus. That's all I can do.
Yeah, well, you know what? For the
I thought
sake
we were
of time,
subtracting
Mark,
a PoE. No? I thought.
For the sake of time, Mark, I thank you for not having a graphic prepared, so I can move right along to Kobe, our third and final call here. Prediction, what do you got? 1-3, 3-1. 1-3, 3-1. What do we got?
I also have a 3-1 for Evil Geniuses. I'm more of a real life props rather than graphic creator.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on that one as well. All right, a bunch of 3-1 predictions here from the desk. I personally am hoping for a full 5 games, an exciting back and forth 5-game series to kick things off. Evil Geniuses FlyQuest, our first quarterfinal of the LCS 2020 Spring postseason. Casters, take it away.
In a split where nothing has really gone the way people expected it to, why would playoffs go as expected? Coming into the 2020 season, everyone still thought Team Liquid would be the best team.
And they are the best team North America has ever produced.
But they're kind of stuck, and everyone's waiting for them to be good. Meanwhile, Cloud9 is absolutely dominating.
How powerful the ability is.
Tied for the best regular split record in LCS history.
FLICKR, he's looking to do body slam.
There was this revolving door of teams. Any of these 5 teams can make a move for second. And then there's a global health pandemic, and everything shuts down. No one really knows what's going to happen to the LCS. No one really knows what's going to happen. 2 weeks after that, the LCS can return online. Teams playing online, casters casting from their homes online, and again, No one really knows how it's going to feel, but you do know it's going to be LCS. As we roll into week 9, all the stories were there. Cloud9 had the opportunity to end Team Liquid's streak
Vulcan and Sven are going for a back door.
by denying them playoffs.
Revenge is coming through, and Cloud9 will shut down Team Liquid.
Golden Guardians, people had them as the worst team in the league, and now they're going to playoffs after winning 3 games in a row.
That is a solo kill right there.
TSM beats C9. Everyone's wondering if they're going to emerge as the true contender.
Jackson assassinates the backline.
We end up getting a 3-way tie for second between FlyQuest,
Nice charm on a coach son. Power of evil.
100 Thieves,
Someday, picks up the Quadra.
and EG actually ends as the second place team.
Jiizuke's got a triple. Make it even more.
Cloud9 is an absolute behemoth.
Blabber goes in.
And for the first time in a long time, they go in as prohibitive favorites.
Combo this, your combo.
But if LCS has taught us anything, and if this split has taught us anything, it's that you never really know
On this team.
what's going to happen next.
Nobody knows what's really gonna happen except that we've got a best of 5 here today between Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest. Welcome to the 2020 LCS Spring Split Playoffs. I am Freak. That is Azir, and my screen is wobbling.
True. There you go. Maybe you're a little bit too excited. You're shaking the screen or something.
I am a
don't
little
know.
too excited.
I'm really excited myself, man. I think it's going to be a good series. I think, coming into this, a lot of people are predicting EG, but to be honest, there's no guarantees. We have seen so many upsets throughout the season, and honestly, I don't think that any team is so far above another besides Cloud9, right? When you take them out of the equation, most of the rest of the league was very comparable as far as strength. EG getting a lot better towards the tail end of the split, but I'll be really interested to see if FlyQuest can figure something out for this best of 5, because best of 5 truly is a different beast than best of 1.
Yeah.
And if they can get pick ban advantages, if they have something figured out to try to shut down Jiizuke, then hey, it can be a completely different ballgame.
And what's cool as well is these are teams with the new playoff format for the Spring Split of 2020. These are teams with 2 lives. If you lose here, you fall to lower bracket, you get another chance to fight through there. If you win, you probably face EG, but you can get a second chance at them down line if the first one doesn't quite work. So obviously kudos for the top 4 placement to have a deep run available, but also it not only are you going to adapt in the best of 5, these are teams that if they do lose, get a chance to adapt to playoffs itself and keep the run going. So gonna be really interesting. As Viper is in, we did not see a Riven ban, and as the Sett gets picked up, we get to wait to see if he will pick it for himself. Right now there's the Varus, and looks like that's a lock in. They're gonna play Aatrox the top side.
Yep, Aatrox will be locked in up in that top lane. Sett would be assumed to go top, but we have been seeing actually more Sett flexes lately. It has been showing up sometimes as a support, sometimes as a jungler. And Riven is one of those champions where it's not just about your lane matchup. You almost need to see the entire team composition to actually be confident in picking it, due to the fact that it really does struggle into a lot of hard CC.
Yeah, I think definitely important there. Right now, we've got some more going on, as there is, of course, Jiizuke waiting for his pick. We've got the Kalista picked up right now. That's going to be likely into the bot lane. Well, I guess we talked about the fact that Sett is a flex, and Kalista likes to face melee champions up in the top side once she can kite away. Generally speaking, should be able to kite out of, say, the Aatrox cage and things like that. So can look really good. We might very well see that Sett support or that Sett jungle.
And this could even be their bot lane. right? Like that could actually be the bot lane. Kalista Sett is a strong combo. It does allow Sett to play very aggressively, to use his abilities to go forward with kind of the safety net of once he gets very low, after he uses his Haymaker and that shield expires, Kalista can pull you back out and somewhat reset the fight. This is a combo I've seen a number of times, and I'm very interested from this EG draft because I do think it has a lot of flexibility. It could just be standard roles, of Kalista bot, Sett top, but this could be Sett support, this could be Kalista top. There's a lot of flexibility that they have here going forward, whereas FlyQuest draft seems pretty cut and dry. You kind of feel like where everything is going to be going, expecting Aatrox to be top, expecting Pantheon to be in that jungle. There's a slight possibility of it going mid, but it doesn't feel like a PowerOfEvil type champion, so not really expecting that to be the case.
Yeah, PowerOfEvil is the highest damage per minute mid laner in the league, and it's not by playing champs like Pantheon. It's the Victor, the Orianna, the Zoe, and they're going to ban Zoe themselves here. Wait to see what else is going to get picked up. We're seeing a Thresh ban come through, and honestly, EG could just keep throwing out the support bans because they've got a strong one for themselves already in the set. Again, doesn't have to be there. We've even seen Gragas support. Not likely, but I mean, can happen. But yeah, wait to see what actually is going to come through. FlyQuest, of course, need a support. They most likely need a mid laner. You're seeing them drop away the Renekton, which means that they think this Kalista might be bot lane indeed, or that the Renekton's going mid as a counter pick to, say, an Aurelia or something.
Yeah. Since Kumo actually does like Renekton quite a lot, I am expecting that they think top lane has not been picked, that they are thinking Sett Kalista is the bot lane, and that the top lane remains to be chosen. Cassio ban coming through. A couple bans have been thrown the way of Jiizuke. A couple bans have been thrown the way of PowerOfEvil now here too, but with the Cassio and the Syndra. So a lot of these mid laners are getting taken off the table. Ryze still remains as a really big pick there for EG. FlyQuest, obviously, Victor is available if they want to go for something relatively high damage, but it does look like support going to be locked in, so everything pretty standard on the side of FlyQuest. They will be saving mid lane counter pick for last, trying to get PowerOfEvil that advantageous matchup against Jiizuke, as we all know it's going to be so important to shut this guy down because he has been very, very dominant in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, well, Jiizuke 16, 4, and 20 across this year in the first 15 minutes. Probably not getting shut down early on, but if it does, that's going to be playing above and beyond on the FlyQuest side really here. Taric going to be locked in as the real support, so Sett will indeed be in the top lane unless there's something else fancy going on like Sett mid. Again, don't expect that. Now the question is it going to be Kalista down there? I think it kind of has to be with what else you've seen. And of course, Ryze, what he's played so much of in the last month. Ryze is locked in for Jiizuke. It's going to feel real comfortable. He's going to get a ton of farm, and EG have a comp that looks good for them.
FlyQuest could just go with something like Victor if they're just going towards the more standard style of picks. Orianna is traditionally considered a fairly good matchup into Ryze also. I am really interested to see what FlyQuest has prepared though. Is it going to be something special? The Azir, another fairly standard pick here, someone that does outrange the Ryze, that can actually look to push him in the early levels and try to scale alongside him, but not someone that really does match him in the side lanes later on. So not any sort of spicy counter pick that has been prepared. The Ryze was pretty easy to foresee based on how the draft had been played out, but it does give EG, again, that comfort for Jiizuke, and while he may not have priority in mid lane early on, he is going to be the strongest side lane champion in the game, come 20-30 minutes later on. He's going to have to worry about Pantheon joining in, and that may be kind of the wrinkle that FlyQuest has to try to shut him down, that it's not just a 1v1 Jiizuke has to worry about against Viper. It's that 2v1 with Santorin ulting in and trying to really shut him down.
Well, the new champion coming into this draft for FlyQuest is the Azir. It's his 8th played all-time mid laner, so like 8th ranked, so does have some level of comfort on it. This will be game number 18 for him on that champion across his career. By comparison, 70 Orianna games. So there is a difference here in familiarity, but a backline teamfight mage with room for playmaking with the Shurima Shuffle can definitely work out fine for him. Should be very excited to watch as that plays out. Ultimately, this game is about ready to go. It's going to be very exciting. I can't wait to see who's going to take down game 1 in this best of 5. So see you soon. Welcome back to the game. Playoffs have begun here in the LCS, and it is Evil Geniuses on the blue side, FlyQuest on the red. EG is top seed, gets side selection, and they could not be chosen by Cloud9. And speaking of that squad, C9 could choose if they wanted to play FlyQuest first round. They said no, give that one away. The team that C9 was more afraid of here was FlyQuest, and they are now Evil Geniuses' opponents. The lineups have been locked in, and this best of 5 will determine who moves on to the second round in the upper bracket.
And I'm really excited for it. Taric coming out here alongside the Kalista. This is a combo we have seen shown off a couple times. It is very, very strong. You again can have some really nice interactions with that Taric ultimate, allowing, as we saw TL play it, a while ago, we've seen another teams play it. Essentially, you can kind of have this Taric go in fairly aggressively, and then as he gets low, he gets pulled out in that Kalista ultimate straight into a Taric ultimate coming out after that, so you can kind of time that out so you have a long kind of string of immunity. Obviously, it also allows you to throw in the Taric aggressively, giving him some more consistent engage options to have that knockout, time straight into a Dazzle stun, which does really increase the reliability of that, because it can be fairly difficult otherwise to consistently land that Dazzle stun, especially against the more mobile champions.
Definitely can be. So we'll see if those targets can line up well. But as you mentioned, that's some really good lane synergy. I definitely love Kalista Taric a lot for kind of all the reasons you mentioned. And just, yeah, you have so much overall safety. It's pretty wonderful. Jiizuke going to be pushed in very lightly in the mid lane to start this one out as Viper. Again, too many people's surprise is starting here in this series. He's not pulling the Riven bans. I thought that might have been a strength for the squad. Doesn't seem to matter really, though, here. They think, no, he's going to be better for the team. Statistically and based on the eye test, I actually thought Solo was the better fit, but that is the situation that FlyQuest put themselves in. They think it's to be the better choice, and that is completely fine. It's their prerogative. They obviously know their players better than I do from the games that I've seen. They've got all those weeks and months of scrims to look at for data.
And I think one of the other things that sometimes, we don't actually get to see because it's not a visual thing is communication, right? And that goes beyond just communicating what's going on in your lane. Sometimes it's positivity and calm. Sometimes it's someone who has good ideas of plays to make when you're behind, or various intangibles that, it's kind of hard as a spectator to really know about or understand. Santorin, though, moving around here on Jiizuke, potentially, was looking for, I think, for just a Raptors invade, but not going to be available. And up here on the top side, won't be too much fun for Viper in those early levels. Sett really does bully out the Aatrox. Any kind of extended melee type trade that you are taking is going to be going fairly heavily in your favor.
Couple spears come in, does have the reset, but they timed out right before he could pull the Rend out, so no extra damage dealt to WildTurtle there, but early push going in to the FlyQuest side. Ward dropped down, Zombie comes out afterwards. Svenskeren going to keep clearing. Right now he's going to be about a camp ahead as the two junglers trade scuttles back and forth on the other sides of the map, so nothing too interesting happening in the early game. Quick recall comes down for the Ryze for a quick tier. Always important to buy that as soon as possible. The faster you can stack it, the more damage you get. Pretty nice.
It is really nice, and honestly, getting the Archangels stacked up and having that shield as essentially an additional defensive summoner really does make an enormous difference for some of these kind of mid-range type mages, such as Ryze. Because you are exposing yourself to taking a lot of damage to be able to be in position and be in range to deal a lot of damage, it really is invaluable and completely can change the types of fights you're able to take. So getting that stacked up and ready to go as early as possible is really big, and that's why I think it was just a smart move for Svenskeren to move towards mid lane, help him push that out so that he can get the recall without actually having to commit a teleport. And now he's going to be in a pretty comfortable position here against PowerOfEvil, who hasn't been able to get a base off yet. If you can lock PowerOfEvil under his tower, you can perhaps force out a TP and then create an advantage just through that.
Yeah, that can be a really big deal, especially if you get that if you ever get that decent cooldown and you can make a play somewhere because of it. That's definitely really nice. One of the buffs that Azir got about a month or so ago was an increased mana pool, so he's a bit more able to withstand the sort of consistent lane pressure and still has somewhat of a mana pool to be able to still summon soldiers and fight for lane control. But yeah, you see this wave shoved into the turret. Pee-wee's going to grab what farm he can. Up 1 CS, and that's with Jiizuke taking an extra recall, and then again starting one out. Now this wave is crashing in the mid lane. PoE stopping to kill the ward first, so he's going to be a little bit slow on crashing it, but there should be some farm Jiizuke misses as he waits for the ambient gold and may just TP back to lane with an extra sapphire crystal and some extra potions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I think it's just going to be that TP, but it looks like a TP play on bot side now that he's used his.
Q flash misses, but Zeyzal doesn't have a good way out. He's already burned flash. He's one attack away from being stunned. They're getting knockups. The passive turns up, and they finally get right back in there, and first blood comes through to WildTurtle. The TP into the bot lane works out great.
Really well done there by Viper, finding the opportunity for that early TP play. Jiizuke had just used his back to mid lane, so they knew that was on cooldown. Ryze was not going to be able to respond, and Kumo had not yet based. He wasn't in a great spot to do it, so as Santorin comes in, IgNar going forward, Viper does arrive. Braum had gotten that auto attack down, allowing them to proc that Braum stun. And Turtle, the one to pick up that first blood, best person there to grab it. So FlyQuest going to be feeling really good. It does cost Viper quite a bit actually in the long run on this top side though, because Svenskeren is coming to actually proxy him out, you know, to essentially stand in between the turrets and zone him off that wave. So not only is he losing that initial CS, he's losing plates too.
Yeah, I feel like in total gold, it comes almost neutral at that point. If you're looking at about 100 gold per minion wave and 320 gold earned for 2 plates, Assisted First Blood is 600. That difference gets made up pretty quickly. Keep in mind the kill was on Zeyzal, not on Bang, so Kalista was able to, I believe, still stay around bottom lane, clear the wave as needed, not miss too much compared to Turtle. So yeah, as you can see, the scoreboard is reflecting a fairly close game overall, a small lead to FlyQuest. Again, I think the kill is a little bit more than that farm and plate was worth, and especially if you think it's better on Varus than on Sett, then sure, there's even more there that's not on the scoreboard. End of the day, FlyQuest with their bot lane control also get to go for this Drake.
Yeah, and credit to them for being able to actually pull this off while Sett was on a reset, while he wasn't actually in a position to try to contest that, because that's the next thing that I was going to bring up is, you know, yes, as far as gold, it goes fairly even, but it could actually be detrimental to FlyQuest if then your top laner has no TP and EG can set up for a dragon play. FlyQuest, though, take away that option and have now, you know, kind of nullified that advantage somewhat, because top lane TP is not going to mean as much if there are no plays to be had, really, on this bottom side.
Alrighty, well, right back onto the map we go as the resets come through, and we know Rift Herald is spawning very shortly. A lot of times you will see teams swap their bottom lane up to the top side to fight for it, or at least roam the support over, if nothing else, let the AD carry solo it out, so I want to see if that gets under pressure before too terribly long. FlyQuest, though, still in a reasonably comfortable spot overall with that Drake picked up, and now looking as Svenskeren wants to invade, but not going to be able to quite do that as IgNar and WildTurtle are around. Those locations are known, and Sven is going to have to back off.
So this is...
He goes right back in, even though...
Yeah, this is actually them trying to make use of the TP. Notice how Kumo is actually backed off in the top lane. This is them saying, okay, there's no dragon, but we can force on your blue. Because if you can test, our TP is going to be used from the top lane, and we're going to have the numbers advantage, and we're going to come out on top. So, you know, EG sets that up well. FlyQuest recognizes that it is happening and does have to back off, so they do lose the blue buff. It is not the end of the world, but that is still the kind of incremental advantage that you want to see a team going for when you do have that TP.
And it has actually swung the gold lead back into favor of Evil Geniuses overall. You're seeing a lot of it be Svenskeren's farm. Temporarily, Viper is kind of caught up with Kumo. And so we'll kind of keep tracking as gold goes back and forth across game state. But definitely a couple of camps difference here for Svenskeren as he hands the blue buff off. Santorin does have Krugs to kill, but right now, making sure that everyone else stays safe, has the ward over by the Rift Trail to make sure that's not getting taken. And okay, back to farming they're going to go. Still fairly close early game here for the squad. Jiizuke not yet on the board for any kills, as the Stinger is in for PUV, and that's going to help mid lane stay under control for FlyQuest.
It will, but I'm interested to see if Jiizuke now, with the blue buff advantage, because Svenskeren is wearing PowerOfEvil's blue buff, and Jiizuke has his own. So if you can actually then have that mana advantage and be able to relentlessly push PoE in, maybe you can get some sort of an edge there. For now, it has not, you know, come to fruition as PowerOfEvil, as you say, on that Stinger, pushing back well, and Viper trading pretty nicely here up against Kumo on that top side as FlyQuest move towards this Rift Herald. They had push in mid, they've rotated their bot lane up a lot earlier, and they're already on this Rift Herald, but EG do look like they want to try to make something happen here. Zeyzal and Bang are both moving up, but it may be too little too late. It looks like the Rift is just gone, unless they want to try to fight after.
1500 health, Svenskeren, he's getting zoned back. Looks like it's going to be an easy pop on the I plus smite. Claim no problem. IgNar actually claims the credit, but now there might be a fight coming in. Is they going to jump in? There's the duck to the back line. IgNar does not have flash, but does have a teammate to get back to. Great explosive. Casco's going to pull Viper right back into the squad. He could not flash away in time, and Evil Geniuses get a kill on the board, but the Herald was grabbed by FlyQuest.
Yeah, really nicely done to actually get a kill back for EG there. Take down Viper, put him further behind. But as FlyQuest, you're going to be really happy about that overall. I think you're willing to trade that 1 kill for the Herald. The Herald, not only is going to have fairly high expected value as far as the plates, you get gold for actually taking it down, and it can allow you to kind of crack that mid lane turret, which can be very, very important in just removing this kind of safety zone for EG, which they're trying to farm.
All right, plates falling pretty rapidly up on the top side as Kumo continues to have a lot of control. Before it was Viper TP'd for first blood. This time it was Viper died in the pit to a Gragas ultimate, and we're going to see plate number 4 drop in the top side. I believe every single one has been solo gold. You can see Kumo up 1,000 gold to the 1v1, despite having only 10 more CS, and they both have that 1 assist.
Yeah, that is a really big deal for him. Viper has been kind of getting the short end of the stick as far as things go. But again, to your earlier point, it kind of comes down to where is the gold most valuable? Can Kumo actually make a lot out of that and transition that to either, a continued side lane advantage or a team fight advantage later on? Because we know that Varus getting that first blood is going to be a big deal. We know that that champion is going to get a lot done for the team. And it looks like the answer for now is to just send Jiizuke out to the side lane, to move him into that position where he can kind of threaten perhaps that final turret plate and look to knock that down for first turret, maybe before FlyQuest can actually get set up and drop their Herald.
I find this very interesting that EG are pulling in the swap, because oftentimes what can be really good about swapping your mid and top laner around is because of item mismatches, right? One does physical damage, other does magic, you build armor, haha, they stats do nothing. But actually Kumo has indexed more into armor than Viper has. He's actually at more of a disadvantage than Viper. Based on the matchup they're now going into themselves. So far, though, Kumo feels pretty safe. EG keeping most of their squad around this lane. Teleports are available to both players playing topside, and EG now feeling comfortable to push in towards IgNar. Can't quite find that stun, but they're going to throw the Taric right in. Here comes the heal. When does the ult come down? So far, not get explosive counts.
PowerOfEvil over the wall.
Stopwatch, and IgNar going to have to flash away to stay alive. Pee-wee only going to get some poke in, but look what's happened in the top side. Viper is completely off the turret. Jiizuke denying another wave of farm. Then it feels like that swap has allowed them to continue to gain farm leads, and another flash forced away from Turtle.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, right? It's less about how Kumo is going to do and more about just knocking down that first turret before FlyQuest can with their Herald, because there's only one plate up in that top lane tier 1. So maybe at this point they're just saying, hey, put Ryze up there in that melee matchup, but Jiizuke maybe going to get all in.
Viper's certainly going to try, finds a sweet spot, third Q, and Jiizuke, he's got to be careful. When does he flash away? Never, just gets stabbed in the back. Viper solo kills the top lane. 126 CS on a Ryze, no problem to him. Cloud Drake traded back to EG.
That is really bad for EG, honestly. So much of this game, it felt like, has been about getting that advantage in the top lane for Kumo. And now, after all that, this top laner who's 1,000 gold behind solo kills your mid laner, and you're going to lose the first turret to Viper. So Viper is going to be right back in this as far as the gold goes. FlyQuest are looking to be punished, perhaps, as we see EG TPing back in. They're going to try to pick up some kills here.
3v2, Panth ult pop to run away. I'm sorry, Viper, but I can't help you on this one. Goodbye, Jiizuke gets revenge.
Jiizuke grabbing a kill for himself, but FlyQuest get that first turret. We'll see if EG can knock one down here to trade back. FlyQuest are also pushing elsewhere, though. There's no one answering them on the bot side, and PowerOfEvil was able to actually push in fully in mid lane, so FlyQuest are getting a lot of damage down while EG was committing to this play on the top side, and eventually Ryze should be able to pick up a tower, trade that back, but turret plates have fallen. First tower already given over to FlyQuest, so the reward will be lesser. But that being said, Jiizuke obviously going to be scaling up nicely here, has a good bit of farm, now has some of that tower gold to his name too, and the further we get into this game, the more of a threat Ryze is going to become in the side lane, where really FlyQuest is going to have no one that wants to 1v1 him. It's going to just be down to whoever is answering him plus Santorin to look for collapses and 2v1 style plays.
Okay, FlyQuest. Viper has the ulti in a second, and he's suddenly in a 1v3 yet again. Gonna run for dear life, pops the ult on cooldown. Nice flash! Gets away from both Zeyzal and Kumo, who flash followed the dazzle. Coordination mishap there for EG. Did not have to burn both. End of the day, Viper still dodges. but it does mean this turret is under fire, and he cannot easily defend this in the 1v3. New wave comes in, and they think Kumo has the damage. They can clean that one out, no problem. Gold shared across the 3. The gold now within only 300 difference as mid lane falls as well to Pewie's push it, puts up an Azir turret, and FlyQuest, honestly, still feeling comfortable in this mid game.
They're feeling really good because EG is the one making plays, but they're committing multiple members to do those plays, and FlyQuest is splitting and getting damage on turrets and getting extra waves elsewhere. So honestly, they've been kind of coming up on top on a lot of these little individual attempts that have been going down. Kumo and Zeyzal, you would like to see just one or the other flash for that. It's not really doing much for you to have both of them flash in there unless they're trying to block off multiple angles, which they weren't able to do with the Dazzle. So Viper going to be pretty happy about that, and it is a trade of the mid tier 1, which FlyQuest took, for that bot tier 1, plus FlyQuest got an extra flash, so they should be pretty happy.
Gonna feel pretty comfortable right now. FlyQuest now waiting for the next play. They're gonna walk right in with IgNar. Explosive Cast comes in to push him away, but Zeyzal has to get pulled out by Bang. The re-engage comes in. A big root out for WildTurtle. Re-engage. Invulnerability gonna come through on 3, but not on Svenskeren. He flashed forward outside of the ulti, and that means he was shut down. FlyQuest get another kill, 3-2 on the scoreboard, and 1,000 gold lead.
It's also going to be another Herald. FlyQuest winning out on these fights. Again, EG looking fairly uncoordinated. I don't know if Svenskeren thought that Bastion, that Taric W, was over on him to guarantee that the ultimate would fall for him. But yeah, he flashed forward. He went in thinking he was going to have that Taric immunity. Didn't actually get it as he jumped out of it and didn't have Bastion. So ends up going down very quickly, and that spelled the end of the fight. FlyQuest coming out on top again, and now with a tool to look to take down perhaps that last outer down in that bottom lane.
Let's see if they can grab that one, as right now the wave's being pushed in without too much issue. It's going to be Sett being nice and aggressive over there on the other side of the map, getting what sort of junk farm he can. He has really yet to, I would say, TP into any major plays that I can recall, and end of the day, Viper has kept it within 15 CS after having to, I mean, it's the worst feeling in the world, right? In the top lane, it's the most selfless thing you have to do is TP out of your wave and then slowly walk back, and you're like, my lane opponent's up 500 gold on me. Let's play League of Legends some more 1v1 with a TP disadvantage. And Viper's doing admirably for that, right? His deaths have all been pretty well justified off of some other major team play objective coming through, and, you know, FlyQuest decided they want to start him, and despite the 1-2-1 score looking bad, I think he's doing well.
I think so too, and you've also got to remember, not only did he TP away from lane, which as you say, all top laners know can feel pretty bad if you're losing waves up top and you didn't get anything bot lane, but he actually also came back to Svenskeren, zoning him off the turret and losing even more, watching more plates and more minions die to his turret as more gold was actually funneled into Kumo's pockets, and then went and solo killed the Ryze after that from that disadvantageous position. So I think Viper has been playing pretty well overall. But EG, game plan still going to be about side lanes. You can see Svenskeren paired up pretty heavily now with Jiizuke. He knows that he needs to be watching the back of this Ryze. Anytime you don't know where Santorin is, you're going to have to be pretty worried about any potential, roams from him or ultimates coming in. But FlyQuest with their second dragon, and it is going to be an Ocean Soul game, so that's always one that really does draw both teams to contest pretty heavily for these dragons. It will be interesting to see if EG wants to fight for the third or is content to wait for the fourth and make it a little bit more risky. But Ocean Soul is generally pretty devastating, especially for champions like Aatrox, where his ultimate is actually amping the healing. You can go into something like Spirit Message and amp that healing even further. And then, while you wouldn't expect Aatrox to win side lane against Ryze, at that point, you really can.
Yeah, you just withstand any given poke and just heal all the way back up anyway, so not huge issues there. Now, as you can see, IgNar knocking down these wards and making sure that top lane is more dangerous. I mean, you talked about the threat of Santorin showing up right behind Jiizuke. I mean, the rest of the squad can kind of roam as well. He's got one ward and the scuttle right now, so he's fairly safe, but those have, finite time. You can very easily get through and find something else to do. Right now, the squad actually coming up there as Turtle and IgNar show up and say, okay, here is Pantheon. We're here for the 3v1, Jiizuke. We walked right through the wards. You thought you were safe. The stun is down. The flash hold is not in time. Jiizuke able to realm warp to safety.
Very slick from Jiizuke. Svenskeren, he honestly saved Jiizuke's ass there. That slow from the barrel on IgNar and Turtle as they were actually running over to collapse on the play. That, I think, is the difference between that Braum ult landing or Jiizuke actually getting out. And Jiizuke just barely does get out. Kumo, in the meantime, pushing on that bottom side. Viper will look to get a little bit aggressive here, but Kumo going to have an easy time retreating with that Blade of Rune King slow.
Yep. Ooh, attempt towards PoE. They're going to find that slow yet again with Braum in the way, though explosive cast will never find a good target. Finally just pushes them away, though, for the re-engage, as Santorin and now Kumo are also here. Despite it being a 4v3 temporarily, they could not find the way into the fight. No kills picked up. Easy disengage for FlyQuest.
I think it was actually a really smart cast from Svenskeren, though. Once you fail that initial engage, you need to get PowerOfEvil away from you, or he could look to go for a shuffle, and you could really be in trouble. So the disengage cast, pretty smart, making the best out of a bad situation. But this is going to be the tier 2 mid going down guaranteed, with even the potential to now move up towards that top side, take away these jungle camps, and maybe even find Jiizuke, who I'm not even sure realizes he's been spotted.
He's right on the other side of the screen. Yep. He's in a 1v3 and has no way of getting out. This Ryze that has won them so many games has yet again fallen. Yep, 4-2 in kills. FlyQuest up just under 2,000 gold, but it's a 5v4 on the map. Evil Geniuses can try to show up equal level on the jungle. Smite will be up for both these players, so will Flash. No explosive cast disengage, but Santorin so low on health, goes in for the dive, can't find it just yet. The whole team is invincible, and that is such an easy turn. 2 for 0, dunk in the backside, nice ult for PoE, but they followed right back in. The knockups are there, 4 kills gonna be picked up, and WildTurtle can only sit and watch as his team is gone. EG win a 4v5 at Baron. This time, it's their turn to grab it.
Oh, it all falls apart for FlyQuest. It was going so well for them, but they bit off way more than they could chew with this super early Baron. That Taric ultimate was enormous. Turtle gonna look to try to snipe this out, but very low chance between Rend and Smite. It really requires a huge mess up from EG for him to get it. Oh, that was close. That was pretty close. But yeah. EG, when that Taric ult lands and they get it on all 4, watch Bang throughout this fight. So the placement this time was good. They were more coordinated, making sure that Svenskeren is going to be in the edge of that ultimate to get the immunity. And Bang is stacking spears this whole time. He has the lethal tempo procced. Kumo gets over the Azir ultimate with his ultimate, which is unstoppable. Then the Facebreaker clapping him back together, stunning up both those solo laners, allowing them to pick up even more kills. That is showing that threat of the Kalista. When you are untouched, Bang has been one of the best bot laners in the league this year. We saw the analyst desk voting, these matchups, which is going to be the most in favor of one team or the other. The biggest differences was actually in that 80 carry role. All 3 of the analysts had Bang as a heavy favorite, and we see him now, for the first time in this game, really kind of come alive and make a big play around that Baron.
Yeah, really well done by him. Flashed over the Azir wall to guarantee the rest of the damage. Got that 4th kill across. And this is, of course, WildTurtle, who got the TP. He got the gank. He got first blood. And, of course, he hasn't died. He's still got plenty of damage available. He's on 2 out of Varus. It's a great power spike, but we definitely need to see him put out the same kind of performances, since he's got pretty much the same amount of gold that Bang does. We've got the 4th Drake on the map right now. Baron buff comfortably worn for the next minute and a half. And EG gonna cleanly walk to the Ocean Drake. There's really no chance that FlyQuest can contest this. I wouldn't ever call, if I'm, on that team, oh, let's go fight with this Drake against Baron buff and a gold deficit. Just give him it. It's not that huge of a deal right now. Clean claim, no problems.
It does feel so bad for FlyQuest, though, because not only did they throw away their gold lead, not only did they give their opponents the Baron buff, now their march towards Ocean Shoal, which was actually a potential win condition, is very closely halted. It's 2-2 now. They would love to be sitting on those 3 dragons and 5 minutes away from a potential soul. And it's also enabling Jiizuke to actually have more pressure in a side lane. So mid lane tier 1 is going to drop. Jiizuke is nearly on death cap now at this point. Has picked up a lot of gold in these side lanes despite getting picked off a time or 2.
All right, right now mid lane gets cleared away, and Evil Genius is looking at what they want to claim. They've only really got about 2 waves left of Baron buff with this 45 seconds remaining, and they are not really willing to siege. They are waiting to collect up the wave in top side. You can see Jiizuke sitting in Fog of War, seeing, am I getting dove? No, I'm not. Quick, collect the wave. Kumo pushing in the bot side as Sett. There is that TP available. Again, Jiizuke can join the squad, but I think EG don't really have vision on everyone and aren't sure where they can press without being dove upon. So they're gaining some farm, but they are not going to crack much more of the base. Only the 3 outers have been killed. Here is the last wave of Baron buff, and you're going to see Bang doesn't even go for the auto attack without flash available, and does not want to risk getting jumped on.
It feels like everything that EG is doing is just saying, we're playing for a split, right? We're playing for a Ryze. We don't need to press too heavily because Ryze is going to win us the game in the side lane. Ryze is going to take down the turrets, and that feels like that is what they are actually looking towards. They clearly don't feel too pressured about the scaling of the opposing team, even though they do have Azir. But here comes Pantheon ult.
Once again, 2v1 topside, goes to duel, Viper dodges the W, but cannot get away from these knockups. Q3, is it gonna land? Yes, it is. Jiizuke gets redemption, but it's not going to be enough. Again, 2v1 kill on the topside. Viper yet again sets it up with Santorin, who claims that kill himself.
It's making it really hard, honestly, for Jiizuke to get things done in this side lane. Santorin's ultimate, very, very good, coming in, cleaning him up, and again, they do knock down that Ryze. But at the very least, EG actually took mid lane tier 2. They're going to get bot lane tier 2. So that is 2 towers for that collapse and kill. As far as the gold goes, that is EG positive. Yes, Jiizuke has gone down, but not all bad for EG by any means. And I'm kind of curious, at this point with all the self-healing in the kit of Viper, we have Death Dance, we also have Ocean Dragon, we have the ultimate healing. Are we going to see Jiizuke move towards a Morello as that 4th item, or if he's going to look to be a little bit more defensive, something like a Zonia's to help deal with all the physical damage that this Aatrox plus Pantheon combo is going to put out?
Yeah, in the one-on-one, it's interesting because I think if Jiizuke is fighting PoE, you don't super need it. Like, yeah, there is... He's probably getting Ravenous Hunter, don't get me wrong. That's probably the rune over there that PoE's got in his secondary tree. And the flat pen would actually be pretty good against a champion who's not building Magic Resist, right? So there is actually a decent use for Morellos in that 1v1. And against Viper, I mean, you're right. This guy's going to heal for probably, 600 to 800 health in a one-on-one, which you can cut by about a third, which is, a solid 200 to 300 true damage. Also pretty good. There is definitely value in that one. I can see the item being quite nice. End of the day, I'm not sure. I think he definitely has to finish Death Cap. I think he needs the turret damage coming through. But yeah, I could easily see it. The other thought, though, is what I think is going to happen is this Void Staff 4th item. It's the percent Magic Pen so that he can kill frontline in a team fight with Viper, Santorin, and IgNar all having bonus MR in their item builds right now.
It'll be interesting to see where he does decide to go. It's definitely going to be a question about the 4th item, as Death Cap has been completed, but on the other side, PoE also 16. He has Death Cap in 3 items with the Leandries and the Nashers. This really is an incredibly high DPS build for PowerOfEvil. If they are having those extended team fights where he's able to actually stack up the Madness passive, be hitting on Kumo, with those spears and those soldiers constantly, PowerOfEvil can put out a ridiculous amount of damage. And EG also have to be careful about where they're actually fighting against FlyQuest, because if they're fighting in a tight corridor, it becomes very difficult to actually navigate over those sand soldiers and actually get to the Azir to threaten him with damage.
Well, we got 30 seconds till the Drake comes up, and the Baron's already here. The Sand Soldiers are huge threats. Merc treads for PoE, and he's got those 3 core Azir damage items. So he can take over a fight. Nice cast! Oh my word! And PowerOfEvil just barely able to flash away. Zeyzal pops the
the face breaker!
Gets a big face breaker back, and PoE's days are numbered. Cannot kite the entirety of EG, just barely gets the top laner alive. And here comes Realm Warp right on top to chase in through. It's going to hurt for Jiizuke. He's barely going to stay alive, but the chase down's going to look good. Bang. Finally has to hit his shield as IgNar shows.
They're going in!
Flash over the wall. WildTurtle can't survive. IgNar, one more auto takes him down as well. Evil Genius's forward motion get a 4 for 0, and all they need now is a minion wave. 30-second respawn timers. You have to believe it's enough to knock down the Nexus.
This is Bang! Flashing over the wall with Svenskeren, knocking him down, and EG, with the aggressive move in the mid lane, are going to be able to close out game number 1. What a finish!
Absolutely massive. The setup for Svenskeren was there, and the rest of the team followed through. Evil Geniuses take game 1 against FlyQuest.
Damn, that was an exciting ending there. Svenskeren setting it up with the cask. It looked like PoE briefly was going to be able to disengage though, utilizing the ultimate, and then Kumo came up massive with the Facebreaker, knocking together I think 4 or 5 members there at the very end. They had a great Taric ultimate. Everything comes together. Kumo barely survives with no health. Then Jiizuke ulting them forward. He barely survives with no health. And Svenskeren and Bang are able to get it done, getting over the wall, flashing in, finishing off those final members so that they could end the game.
That's definitely one of those moments, one of those fights where, 2% more damage or 2% less health, like very, very small slivers, would have meant the kills that wouldn't have gotten the fights to come through. So really impressive stuff. Well done here. EG take game 1. It's a best of 5. FlyQuest will have side selection, and we'll be back very soon. So don't go anywhere. We're going to return. The State Farm Analyst breaks down that game. Stick around.
See you soon.